Hello and welcome to another video. Today I wanted to do some fan art for you guys. I actually planned on doing just filling out a little doodle page, and as you can see I do have a little doodle page filled out here of the characters Sherry and Brago from Zatch Bell. I'll get more into that in a little bit, but I wanted to do this little doodle page, but I ended up doing this off camera. I started it off camera just because I felt like I was going to try and draw them first so that way I could know what they look like before I drew them on camera because I'd never drawn these characters before. But then I got really sidetracked. Like I got really into it, and so I didn't end up recording any of this. And also it took me like 3 hours to draw this little page. And so I was like, this probably wouldn't have been a good video anyway. I would have had to cut it up into like a bunch of different parts. So I decided instead of doing a little doodle page, I would just go ahead and pretty much so when I was doing this, I was just trying to get what the characters felt like and what they looked like a little bit, and then I was going to decide I was going to draw them in my style. So this is a little drawing I did. Like I said, this is still just a doodle, but it's going to be one of these marker doodles like these guys over here. And so I'm just going to color this for you guys. So sorry you didn't get to see me draw this one. I actually do really like the way this page came out. So it's a little bit unfortunate. So that's why I decided I was just going to show it to you guys first before we got into the coloring of this one. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so jumping right into the coloring, as you can see, I sped up the footage a little bit just because this was like a 40-minute video and I didn't feel like talking for 40 minutes. And I just put it on 2x speed, so it's not that much faster. And I figured since most of the coloring is actually pretty flat, except for like their skin, that it was okay to speed it up a little bit today. So it's not that I'm dissatisfied with this piece. I do like the way it came out, especially the coloring and the shadows on their faces. You'll see when I do that in a second. But the rest of it does come out a little bit flat, so that's why I didn't really mind that it was going to be sped up, just because I feel like there's not really that much to see with this coloring. Not like the other ones where I put like a lot of detail into their clothes. This one is pretty much just the skin that has a lot of shading and detail, which is unfortunate, but it's okay. We'll try again next time. So, when I say that I did a lot of detail in the skin, I was looking at a reference picture for these guys, and there was some pretty dynamic there was, like, a really strong light source in the photo coming from the what's it called? The top left, and so I was like, "I'll just copy that, or I'll at least try to do my best." And I do like the way that it turned out. It does look nice, especially on Brago and especially on Sherry. I feel like I really, did it pretty well today, which is, like, really exciting for me. I was, like, really afraid to do it, though. I was like, "What if it turns out really bad?" But it didn't. It turned out really good. So sometimes taking risks is they actually turn out good, you guys. It's really exciting. It made me really want to try out more harsh lighting slash more dynamic lighting in the future. So since when it came to Sherry, though, I feel like she turned out well, but I think it's kind of hard to see it in the video. The colors aren't as bright or saturated as they are in real life, so it might not look like I put the shading is that dark compared to Brago. I feel like on Brago's, you could actually really see the shadows on his face, and then I feel like for Sherry, it's kind of a little bit harder to see it. But in real life, it looks really nice, you guys, I promise. Okay, so I should probably talk about the characters a little bit. So like I said, this is Sherry and Brago from Zatch Bell. I don't know if you guys ever watched Zatch Bell. It came out in America in like 2000 and whatever. It was on Toonami, I remember. But it's not that it was unknown or like super underground anime or anything. Like I said, was it Toonami or was it on 4Kids? It was on one of those. So like I feel like a lot of people saw it if you were like a kid who was into anime and you were watching either of those channels. But I don't think it was super popular. It wasn't like one of the big three or anything. It didn't really pop off like that. I don't know why. I mean, I guess I do know why. Because if you look at the art in comparison to like maybe the big three, you're like, oh, it's kind of childish and kind of silly. And they really went really silly with the anime. Not to say that it's not a silly series, because it does have silly moments, but the fights are really good. It's a battle shonen, like the big three are battle shonen, but instead of like the individuals fighting, it's like these kids come from the demon world. They're not called demons in the show, they're called Momotos. I guess because if you're from America, you know that about the whole Jesus panic and stuff, like demon panic and stuff. So they're like, yeah, they're probably like when they were translating, they're like, no, they cannot be called demons. Pick something else. So yeah, they went with Momotos. So basically they come from the demon world and they have these books that help them that cast their spells, and they need a human partner, and they're basically fighting to become the next king of the demon world. It's actually very fun, very cool. Seeing their different powers is really cool. I was reading the manga recently. Okay, no, it wasn't recently. I did jump back into the manga for a while and then I stopped. Not because it wasn't interesting and it wasn't good. It is very good. And the way that the artist draws is really good. And they put a lot of emotion into their drawings and stuff. So it is a very good manga. I would recommend it to you guys with, the same caveats I have for anime and manga all the time. So go into it thinking about that. And I would say read the manga instead of watching the anime. I won't tell you to not watch the anime. I'll just tell you that if you're into subs over dubs, which I know some people are, I'm one of those people. Sorry if that ruins your opinion of me, but sometimes I like to watch TV while I'm falling asleep, and I can't listen and fall asleep at the same time if it's in Japanese because I don't speak Japanese. Okay, but yeah, if you're subs over dubs, they stopped dubbing it like 100 episodes in or something. And so they never finished dubbing it. And then if you're into the sub, that's cool. But so they do finish the show, but it goes off in like a different direction than the manga does. And it's got a different ending. And so I would just read the manga because it is finished. I have not finished the manga yet, but I did start reading Zatch Bell 2, which is the sequel series. And you're like, why would you start doing that? And I was like, I know how Zatch Bell ends. I'm not going to spoil it for you guys, but I do basically know how it ends and who wins basically the tournament to be the Demon King. And so I'm like, okay, I would just read the sequel series because I'm curious to see what their grown up designs are. Because when I was a kid, I watched the anime. I watched pretty much all of it until they stopped dubbing it. So I know pretty much everyone who's going to show up that is like important. Not everybody, obviously. Uh, nobody. So a couple characters popped up, and I'm like, I have no idea who that is, but that's okay. I just wanted to see their sequel designs. I'm like, these sequel designs are really good. I'm liking them so far, and so yeah, like I said, I watched this show as a kid, and then I decided to draw Sherry and Brago, not because they're my favorite characters. My favorite character is actually Kanchime and Fulgore, which you guys will know who that is. They're basically the comic relief in the show, and I always like a little silly guy. Those typically tend to be my favorite characters. It's just a silly little guy. But these guys were supposed to be the rival of the main character, Zatch Bell, and they were supposed to be the cool team. So like they were like think of like the Vegeta, like the Sasuke type archetypes. This is who these guys are supposed to be, and I think they pull it off. They both have very cool designs. Like Brago is very sharp and spiky, and he's dark. He's like black and purple and dark purple, which is cool or whatever. And he's got like that attitude where he's like grr all the time. He's like, I just want to beat people up. I don't care about this other stuff. I don't care about you, human partner. But he does learn to care about her. I mean, he's not like nice about it, but they grow to care about each other. And I think it's really cool is the contrast. So he's like dark and scary, and she's like this French aristocrat lady, and you're like, oh, what's their vibe? They're like, that's really cool, the contrast in their character designs. But you learn that she's actually pretty intense, just like he is. She's the more reasonable of the two. But if you're like, you don't listen to what she says, because in the story they go around just trying to convince people to give up their book. So I'm pretty sure that was her idea because I'm like, there's no way that was his idea because he wants to fight like everybody all the time because he wants to be the strongest. And so I guess it was her idea to go around and ask people that, just so they wouldn't have to go around kicking everybody's asses. But if you refuse to give up your book willingly, because if you're in the story, if the character's book gets burned, they basically lose the competition, right? And they get sent back to the demon world. So if you refuse to give up your book and let them burn it, they're just going to beat you up, which I think is fun. And I do think that they have a really cool in character dynamic between the two of them because when you look at Sherry for the first time, you're like, oh, she's rich, so she's probably gonna be like a spoiled girl archetype. But she's really not like that at all. She's more like super hardworking burnout type kid, if that makes sense. So like her parents forced her to work hard her whole life, and they were always disappointed in her. And then she made one friend who was her friend, and they had a good time together. And then her friend gets taken away by another Mamoto, but he's a demon, and he's an evil guy, and he brainwashes her friend to acting ways that she knows that her friend wouldn't, and so she gets mad about that, and so she decides that she's gonna go save her with the help of Brago, and she's really hardworking and really determined, and he pushes her a lot, and he's always like, "You're a weak human, so you need to keep up." And she's like, "Well, I am gonna keep up. Okay, you might say these mean things about me, but I'm gonna do it." She's like very determined. I think that's really cool for her character. And then you see them grow, and he starts to care about her a little bit more, and I just think it's really cool dynamic. I did kind of ship them when I was a kid, but that was before I learned that he's 14 and she's 18, and so I was like, nope, don't ship that anymore. Sorry. but they are in the sequel series, Zatch Bell. They, sorry. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. That was spoilers. But I mean, they were one of the more popular characters. So maybe don't be surprised that they show up in the sequel, but they do show up in the sequel. And so she's married with kids now. And so they're both, it's been like 10 or 13 years or something because now he's 27 and she's 31. And I'm like, well, that's not such a big age difference when they're older. But I'm like, that she's married. So I do kind of ship them again now that they're older. Just because when he showed up, she was like, oh, you got really big. And so in this drawing, they have like a really big height difference. They have a really big height difference. And I didn't even draw it all the way. He's actually his hair is supposed to come just to her shoulder. And I drew it a little bit over her shoulder. So he's actually supposed to be a little bit smaller. So I'm trying to get and I tried to make him look kind of like a kid. He looks the author of Zatch Bell is actually really good at making them look like children, so he looks pretty young in the drawings of him, but I feel like I struggled a little bit to make him look kind of younger. I think I did okay with this one, but the other ones on the other page, I don't think I did very good making him look younger over there. He looks at least 16 in that other one. So just add that onto the list of things I need to learn how to draw children. It's not that I don't know how to draw children, it's that pretty much I just don't draw children. I just don't have any characters who are kids. I mean, sometimes I like to age down characters and draw what they looked like as they were kids, but I don't really do that so much anymore. So I just have to try to draw kids again. I know like the proportions you're supposed to do for child faces, and so I try to do that with him. So basically all you do, well, not all you do, but one of the things you could do is the way that people's faces are proportioned. So when you're an adult, right, there's a specific proportion for how far your eyes are from your forehead and your nose is from your mouth and stuff like that. So for kids, their eyes are a little bit lower on their face. So their faces are gonna be smaller, and if you draw like a center line on the face. So if you ever see me or another artist, when they draw like a circle and then do like a cross over the circle. That's so to say they can figure out the proportions of the face and where they want to put features. And so when they do that cross in the center of the face, if you're going to draw an adult, typically you would either put the eyes on that line or just above that line. And if you're going to draw a child, you would try to put the eyes underneath that line, just because a kid's eyes are lower on their face. I don't know why that is. It's just how it works. I don't know. And there are other things you can do, but that's a quick tip for you guys right now. So generally, yeah, I do know how to draw kids. I just don't draw kids, so I don't have the practice doing it correctly. And I don't have the practice drawing old people either. I have to get into drawing old people because I do have some characters who are supposed to be older. Like there's a guy, and it's I think I've talked about him before. Hope has a boss at his job, and he's supposed to be like 40 or 50. And whenever I draw him, he really doesn't look that old. He looks like maybe or oldest he's like in his 30s. So I have to practice drawing older people because there tend to be more older people in my stories than there are kids. So I might prioritize learning to draw old people over children, but we'll see. And so, just as a tip, I feel like if you're trying to learn to draw something, maybe try to prioritize that over other things. Like if you want to get generally good at other stuff, at everything, that's cool. But I would just try to pick something to focus on for a while, like maybe a week or maybe a month, which I know sounds kind of boring, but yeah. If you want to try to get better at something, you need to like draw it consistently and really focus on learning how to draw that. I don't do that. I know you're supposed to do that, but I am lazy and I don't want to draw the same thing every day. I'm not saying that it's easy to do that, right? I'm never going to say or tell you guys anything is easy to do, especially when it comes to art and life in general. Nothing is something that might be easy for some person might not be easy for anybody else. You know what I mean? So I'm not gonna tell you that it's easy or that I even follow my own advice, right? So you might, oh, you're a hypocrite. Why should I listen to you? You don't have to. I I just say things that I think might be helpful to people, and if you want me to stop, I guess I can stop. But I just hope at least somebody finds something I say a little bit helpful. So back to Zatch Bell, just for a little bit. I was talking about the sequel series. It's literally called Zatch Bell 2, and it's just a sequel to the original manga. So just go ahead and read the manga first, and then I would highly recommend you go read Zatch Bell 2 because it's really good, and the fights are really good, and I feel like the character designs are really true to their character, and they don't do that thing where they're just like a little bit older and you're like, oh, those character designs are kind of disappointing. And like there's one character, I don't want to spoil it for you guys, but she gets super buff. I was like, that makes so much sense for her character. That was the correct choice, okay? Because other series, I feel like they would have just made her cutesy because when she was a kid, she was all cutesy and stuff. But her whole thing is, well, I think that's gonna get into spoilers. So spoilers, okay? If you're gonna read Zatch Bell or Zatch Bell 2, and you're like, I haven't read it yet. Okay, I'm gonna spoil what their designs look like. And so it's for the character Tia slash Tio. In the dub, her name was Tia. In the manga, her name is Tio. So she's like she's a protector character, and her spells are basically pretty much more for defense than they are for attack. And so this makes sense since she's a protector that she would get super buff, so that way she could better protect people. I was like, that is so smart, and I feel like other people would have made her just like cutesy because she was really cutesy and she was a kid. She was very feminine, and I wouldn't say that she's not feminine. She is still feminine, like, she's got long hair and stuff, but she's so buff now. I was like, "That is so cool," because it makes so much sense for her character. Why wouldn't she get buff if she's so interested in protecting people? She's always been the more caring one of the group, and they're at war right now, so if she was gonna protect people, she would have to, and they don't have their spells. It's like a whole thing, you have to read it, but they don't have their spells, so I don't know if she got buffed before then or she got buffed because of the war. Either way, I was like, that's a good choice. And I'm not daring to say that there's like the best choice or there's only one definitive choice when you do character design. There's so many choices you can go with it. You take with it, but I really like this choice that the guy made. I was like, that's good. And so, but the only sad thing is that it releases only once a month. But I understand. I watched a whole video about the backstory of Zatch Bell, which has kind of got what me reinterested in reading it again and watching the anime again. And so the guy was basically really screwed over. I can't remember what magazine he was published in Japan, but he really got screwed over and he spent a long time trying to get the rights back to his own manga and stuff. And so he did eventually win the court case. And so now he publishes it by himself. And so since he's publishing it himself, he needs like a month. He's like pacing himself and he's not like rushing to do them weekly. And so since he does get to do them on a monthly basis, he takes longer on them. And so the chapters are a little bit longer and he gets to spend more time on the art. And it looks so good, you guys. It's pretty much just black and white. There's no screen tone or anything, but he's able to make the fights look really cool and the shots look really cool. I just think that it's something I should check out, especially since he's independent now. I'm always for people taking back like their own works instead of going through big companies or whatever and supporting. I wouldn't say he's a small artist, right? He has a pretty big fan base, but he is doing it by himself or he's publishing it somewhere else. I think he's doing it independently though, which I'm like, yes, do things independently. That's so great. I've been thinking about buying the volumes just because I'm like support independent artists and also the art is really nice. But I don't even have the original Zatch Bell manga, so I'm like, should I get Zatch Bell 2? There's only like 4 to 5 volumes right now. So I'm like, if I get in now, because I have another manga collection for this is a little embarrassing to say, but it's for iShield 21. iShield 21 is my favorite manga. Yes, I know it's problematic. If you've read not Zatch Bell, if you've read iShield 21, you'll know the problematic parts I'm talking about. But it was really one of the first manga I fell in love with when I was younger, and I do reread it a lot from time to time. So I really like it. So I purchased it. But I was trying to purchase them right before the pandemic, which was a mistake. I should have started earlier because when the pandemic hit, all of Japan shut down. They're like, we're not shipping anything out. Fuck you guys, which is valid. So, and then they discontinued it. They don't sell it anymore. And I'm missing like 10 volumes. I'm like, no. So maybe I should get in on buying Zatch Bell 2 before the same shit happens again. Like maybe we get another pandemic or he just stops publishing them or whatever. I'm like, I gotta stop hesitating because I had so much time to try and buy all the volumes of iShield 21 and I was just taking my sweet ass time. And I shouldn't do that. If you guys have a manga that you like and maybe it's not super popular or it's old and the volumes are still up, I would say buy them now before they stop printing them. I've been traumatized. So you see me coloring her hair in here now. I know, whiplash right there, sorry. But I just want to talk about her hair a little bit just because her hair is a yellow blonde. You saw on the other page, I did draw her hair as yellow blonde, but I've already told you guys I don't like yellow blonde. And I was thinking, well, I should make it yellow blonde. That's what the character, her hair is that yellow sort of blonde. But then I was like, this is my sketchbook. This is my style. And if I'm translating something to my style, I can do whatever the hell I want. So I made her hair the kind of blonde that I usually like to do. And I like that much better. So just remember that, you guys, even if a character looks a certain way, if you're drawing them in your style, as long as you're not like doing racist shit, like lightening their skin, you can fiddle with their colors a little bit. So that's what I did with her hair. And then I just put the highlights in her eyes. I was thinking about putting the highlight under her eye, but then I was like, that's too much. Alrighty, so that's the end of the video, guys. Thank you for spending this time with me. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.